This video will show you how to replace the ignition coil boot kit on a Ford Transit-250. You'll have 6 ignition coils, 3 along each side of the engine. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. Now as we look along the driver's side of the engine, we can see our valve cover and you can see your 3 ignition coils making their way along the valve cover. Now this would be the easier side to replace. The harder side would be on the opposite side of the engine, so that's the side that I will show you. Along the passenger side of the engine compartment, we can see our washer fluid reservoir cap. We need to pay attention deep inside this area. We can also see our air filter housing and our air inlet tube. We want to separate the inlet tube from the housing. Use a 7mm or a flathead screwdriver to loosen the clamp just enough we can dislodge this. With that clamp loose, let's go ahead and separate this. Now that I have this broken free, let's move towards the center of the engine. So as we make our way over towards the center of the engine, we see that we have another 7mm headed clamp. We're going to pause on this one. Let's make our way along the rearward side of the intake. On the driver's side here, we have 2 lines that need to be disconnected. We'll start with the one closest to the front. Right where my thumb is, there's a small locking tab. I want to grab that tab. I'm going to carefully flex it to the unlocked position and we'll pull this out of place. So as far as this tab, I'm just grabbing onto it. I'm pulling it up, and then we want to pull it over so it's dislodged. You can see it moving now. Let's grab that line, pull it out of place. Just a quick inspection of that. We can set this aside. Let's move along to the next line. As for this connector, there's actually 2 squeezable tabs. There's one up along the top. There's a second one directly on the other side. So top and bottom. Squeeze the 2 together, and then pull this out of place. You can use some pliers if necessary. Just be careful not to damage it. That line looks good as well. Now we can make our way back towards that clamp. We're using a 7mm for this clamp. So you have it loose, you should be able to take hold of it. Slide this away from our throttle body. Let's get this out of here. Now before we go too much further, let's just have a look along the top of the engine. Along the top of my engine, I can see that I have a lot of miscellaneous debris, and I want to make sure nothing falls in towards the engine during the removal process here. Now I'm just going to use some compressed air. We'll give this a quick cleaning. One thing I would note is we want to make sure nothing makes its way inside of the engine or inside of the upper air filter housing. Now we're looking along the front of the upper air intake plenum. We have our vent tube that leads up to this area. You can see the locking tab. Just like before, you just want to carefully dislodge that. We'll pull this out of place. Just use my thumb, we'll pull it down. Now we have a hose leading up here. We'll squeeze the clamp, pull this out of place. Use some pliers for this. You may have to give that a twist to pull it out of place. We'll set that aside. Just underneath where that hose was, we have a small metal bracket. You're going to find that you have 2 8mm headed mounting bolts. For this, I'm going to remove the lower hardware. 8mm down here. There's our mounting bolt. Now, as for our upper mounting bolt, you do not need to fully remove this. Let's just make sure it's loose so this bracket can move. This is going to help during the installation process. Perfect. Now we're moving towards our throttle body. You're going to find that you have an electrical connector along the forward side. We do have a red locking tab. As for this red locking tab, we just want to carefully pry it out of place. This does not get fully removed. It just gets slid back rearward as far as possible. Once you've done that, looking closely, you can see that there's a secondary locking tab. That red locking tab was preventing this from being able to be pushed in. Now, while pressing this in, we should be able to pull this electrical connector out of place. A quick inspection for corrosion. Now we do need to dislodge our wiring harness. This does have a mounting point down here. Just go ahead and pry that out of place. For this, I'm just using a trim tool. You can use pretty much anything as a prying device. There we are. Now that I have this broken free, I'm just going to bring it towards the passenger side of the engine, rest it down along the front. So we're making our way up towards the center area here. Now this is where we're going to disconnect another electrical connector, and then below it we will have an evap line. As for this electrical connector, it has a press-in tab. We want to press this down and pull it out of place. If you find you have a hard time squeezing this and pulling it out of place, you could carefully make your way along the other side, underneath the locking tab, gently pry it up. This one does feel like it's coming free. Pull it right out of there. No corrosion there, this is looking good. Let's make our way towards our next tube here. This is part of our evap emissions. Now, as far as this tube is concerned, there's going to be two tabs that are pretty much impossible to see until I have it dislodged. They're actually on the inboard side here. I'm taking hold of one, I'm pressing it down towards the center. The other one, I would do the same, essentially grabbing both, pulling them towards the center, and we should be able to lift this thing up. It's going to come up towards us. May be able to do this with one hand or two, it really just depends. So here we go. I'm just going to try to turn this so you can hopefully see. I'll press it back to the locked position. There's my two tabs. Squeezed them in, pressed it through, unlocked. Perfect. Let's leave this in the unlocked position and we'll continue on. So the electrical connector that we had disconnected, we also want to make sure we dislodge the wiring harness from the intake. I'm just using my prying device here. We'll pull this up and out of here. There we go. Pull that over. This is looking good. Now, as we make our way a little further rearward, we do want to make sure we deal with this bracket here. It has one mounting bolt holding it in place. We also have a small plastic bracket. Let's continue on with the mounting bolt holding this metal bracket in place prior to the plastic portion here just under it. So as we're looking back here at this bolt, it's a 10 millimeter. We can remove that. There's that bolt. Now we should be able to flex this. Let's get it out of our way. We're just going to rest it all the way over towards the driver's side. So just underneath that, as I mentioned, we do have a plastic clip. Now we do have two locking ears on this. You just want to try to squeeze the ears towards the outboard side, and you should be able to lift this tube up and out, just like I have here. Now this is looking good. We've completed pretty much everything along the forward and the side area here, but we need to make our way along the rearward side. You're going to find that we have a wiring harness with a couple mounting points. We still have a sensor up along the top passenger side rearward corner as well. So let's continue on. Now as for this electrical wiring harness back here, I just want to pry it up and out of place. Obviously I want to be careful not to cause any damage to anything. I'm just going to use my trim tool. You can also use a flat blade screwdriver. Now as you can tell, this plastic clip did break. This is common. I've seen this plenty of times. Once we do have this freed up, let's make our way across the top of the intake plenum next. Now, as far as this map sensor is concerned, we have our electrical connector. Just as before with the red locking tab on the connector, we have a white this time. Just go ahead and dislodge that, and then we'll squeeze on the tab, pull that out of place. We're just disconnecting the electrical connector. Now, if you find you can't squeeze the locking tab, I'm just going to use an angled pick along the back side, and I'm going to try to lift up on the locking tab from the opposite side here. So I've got my pick. Come underneath. No corrosion there. This looks good. Set that aside. So we're making our way along the back side of the intake here. We still have our wiring harness that we just dislodged from the map sensor. We have a mounting point here. Now, just as before, let's just go ahead and pull this up and out of place. I'm using my trim tool. I'm going to try to lift that up. There we are. Now, if this plastic clip did happen to break, that's okay. During the installation process, you can use a wire tie. Just a quick inspection of this, we're going to set it aside. We can continue on with the hardware, holding our intake manifold down. Now, as far as the hardware is concerned, we do have some along the driver's side area here, but you're going to find that you have a foam insulator. There's one thing that I want to note about this. Typically, I just take hold of it. I'm going to try to lift it up and try to pull it away from this area. Now, you may still find that you have other miscellaneous debris. Go ahead and clean that down. Once again, use some compressed air. Nothing can make its way inside of the engine. Now we can move along to removing all the hardware holding our upper intake plenum in place. You're going to find that there's 6 8mm headed mounting bolts making their way along the outer edge, and 1 8mm headed mounting bolt up along the top center. There's that one. Let's move along to the next. We'll continue on. The next one's just behind this area. It's fairly difficult to see, not hard to gain access to. That one's loose. Let's get the last one on the front corner here. That's loose as well. Top center. Now, as for this top center bolt, you're going to find that it is considerably longer than all other bolts. Quick inspection of that will set it aside. Let's take hold of this. We're going to give it a wiggle and lift it up and out of position. Now, you may find that this is stuck down in place. Just carefully wiggle it. Make sure you have removed all hardware. Slide that up and out of here. Just a quick inspection of this. Let's set it aside for now. Before we go any further, let's make sure we cover this area. We will have to clean it down and thoroughly inspect during the installation process. For now, let's just make sure nothing falls inside of any of these ports, which would lead into the engine and can be catastrophic. This looks good. Let's continue on. And now at this point, the removal for your part is going to be the process no matter which side of the vehicle you're working on. So with that said, let's start by disconnecting our electrical connector leading to the ignition coil itself. We have a red locking tab. I want to try to pry that up and out of place. There we go. Now we're going to press in on the next locking tab. We'll attempt to squeeze this and pull it out of place. Just as before, if you cannot squeeze this enough to pull it up, carefully make your way along the opposite side. We're going to gently pry up on the locking tab from this side, and you should be able to slide it out. No corrosion there. This looks good. We'll set that aside. Now we can see that we have an 8mm headed mounting bolt holding this ignition coil in place. That bolt looks good. Now we should be able to take hold of the ignition coil. We're going to give it a wiggle and attempt to break it free from the spark plug located down along the bottom. There it is, friend. Let's get this over to the bench. Now we have the ignition coil on the bench. We have our brand new boot kit. Let's start removing the original boots from the ignition coil. Down at the very end, we're going to remove the tip. For this, typically you just take hold of the boot and pull it out of place. Now, as you can tell, this one was in poor condition. It ripped during the removal process. Once you have it removed, just a quick inspection in this area. You may find that there's a small spring. That spring should actually be a part of the boot. We can see it here on the original. We just want to make sure it is removed. Now, once we've completed that, we need to move along to the upper mounting boot. This one's just going to carefully get pried out of place. We want to be careful not to damage our ignition coil. Use a small pocket screwdriver if necessary. We'll break it free. We should be able to slide it out of position. You can apply some lubricant if necessary, but you should not have to. Now, prior to installation of any brand new part, let's make sure we clean and inspect the mounting area. For this, I'm just using a clean rag. We're going to make sure we clean all the way up along this flanged area. We'll make our way all the way down to the tip as well. At this point, let's use a little bit of silicone paste. I'm going to go up along the flange area here to make my way all the way around. This is going to help keep moisture out and away. Now, just a tiny bit down along the shafted area. We don't need very much. This is going to help lubricate the shaft for the installation process of the upper boot. We'll make sure we have this in the proper orientation, and we should be able to slide this all the way onto that ignition coil. Once we hit the lubricant, go ahead and give it a quick spin here. That'll help us slide it all the way up on there. When it does slide up, you should feel and hear an audible click. Just double check, make sure that's secured all the way around. Continuing on, we have our lubricant in this area here at the very tip. Looking inside of the brand new boot, you can tell that we do have our brand new spring. It needs to be there. We'll take this, we're sliding it onto the ignition coil, pressing as far as possible, and a quick twist. One last thing while we're still here, just a tiny bit more silicone paste directly inside of this port here. This looks good. Let's get it over to the vehicle. Let's carefully start bringing this ignition coil up into place. We're going to rest it down on here, pressing it as far as possible. Align the mounting bolt port. We'll start that in, bottom it out. The torque for that is 62 inch-pounds. Double check to make sure that's secured in place. Now it's time for our electrical connector. Let's line this up with the ignition coil. We're going to press it in. Listen for an audible click, a light tug to confirm it's secured, lock it down. Now at this point, the process will be the same for all other ignition coils. Let's have a quick look at our plastic intake prior to installing it. I have it on the bench. We need to look along the bottom side. We're just going to carefully turn this over. Now that I have this turned over, we can see our mating surface. This is going to go directly up against our engine. It's typically a good idea to replace this gasket, but at minimum, you want to make sure you clean it down, make sure it's soft and pliable. For this, I'm just using a clean rag. I don't like to use any type of detergents. We'll make sure there's no miscellaneous debris making its way inside of the plastic intake, otherwise that could get drawn into the engine, which could be bad. Now, as I feel around, as I mentioned, I'm making sure it's soft and pliable, but I do also want to make sure it is raised up and out of that actual plastic intake. The gasket needs to be seated, but it should actually protrude a little bit. That way there, when we do tighten this up against the engine, it's going to squeeze the gasket and seal properly. This looks good, so let's get it over to the vehicle. Before we bring our upper plastic intake into place, let's remove our protective cover here. Just using a pad, I don't want anything to make its way inside the engine. Now the next thing we need to do is wipe this down. As we do so, make sure you're removing everything, but pulling it out and away from inside of these ports. We do not want to try pressing anything inside. That's going to get drawn inside of the engine, which is bad. Just make your way all the way around this entire thing. A quick wipe, confirm there's no miscellaneous debris. Now we can get our plastic intake in place. Let's carefully bring this into position. We're going to start in each one of our mounting bolts by hand. Now that I have that rested in the proper position, I'm going to start in each one of my mounting bolts. When it's time to bottom these out and torque them, it needs to be done in a specific sequence. For now, let's just go ahead and start them in. They're all started in. Let's go ahead and bottom these out, as I mentioned, in a specific sequence. They're all bottomed out. Let's go ahead and torque these in that sequence to 89 inch-pounds the first time around. Fifth bolt all the way back here. Sixth bolt. Last bolt all the way in the front corner. We're going to go around a second time with an additional 45 degrees, which is essentially an eighth of a turn. It's not very much. Last one up in the front here. Now along the front of that plastic intake, we have a bracket that goes from the intake down to the front of the engine. Down in this area, we have our 8mm headed mounting bolt. I'm just going to make sure I start that in and we'll bottom it out. Work our way up to the top. Double check to make sure that's properly secured in place. Let's make our way up to the breather tube. Let's get our breather hose in place. We're just bringing this over. As I start pressing it, I like to try to press on my small tab here. That's going to have this in the unlocked position. We'll continue pressing it all the way in. Listen for an audible click. Double check to make sure the locking tab's properly secured and this does not fall out of place. Now, as we make our way over, we do have another hose that goes here, but we're going to wait on this. Let's continue on towards our throttle body. As far as the throttle body, we need to reconnect our electrical connector and secure the wiring harness. For this, we're taking the connector, press it in. Audible click from that, a light tug, lock it down, red tab here. Double check. That feels good. Now we're looking up at our purge valve here. Let's start with our line. Now this line will have to be pressed into this area, so I'm bringing it up. We'll start pressing it towards the valve. Once you have it pressed all the way towards the valve, lock it down with your green lock. Audible click. It does not fall out of place. We'll follow that line to its mounting point. That should sit inside of this plastic bracket. So I'm squeezing the line and the bracket together. Slide it right down in there. We have an electrical connector. Now, as far as this electrical connector and wiring harness, it would actually go underneath this tube. So I'm just bringing it under. We have one mounting point that would slide into this area of the intake. You can tell ours is damaged. That's okay. We'll continue on with that electrical connector. Line it up, press it in. Audible click, and it's secure. Let's bring this tube over. We're going to align it with our plastic intake. Just slide it on there as far as possible. Make sure you clamp it down in the original positioning. For this, I'm just going to use some pliers. Squeeze on those ears. Double check to make sure it's secured. If it slides out of place, you may need to replace that clamp. If you don't have a clamp, you could use a wire tie. Now, as we follow the line, we can see where our bracket is. Now, this needs to be mounted down to our plastic intake. I've got my 10mm mounting bolt. I'll start it in, snug it up. Let's make our way all the way to the rear of the plastic intake here. We have our map sensor. We're going to connect our electrical connector. For this, I'm just lining it up. I'll press it on. Audible click from that. It is secured. Lock it down with the white lock. Now, if we follow this wiring harness, we can see that it does have one small mounting point. This has to slide into the plastic intake. Now, as we follow this electrical wiring harness, we have one mounting point. So I'm just going to press this down into our plastic intake. It's fairly difficult to see the port. Double check, make sure that's secured in place. Now let's get our air inlet tube in place. Slide this all the way down towards our air filter housing. Now we need to focus at that throttle body. When we install this inlet tube, it needs to slide all the way till it's bottomed out against the throttle body. You can see one locating tab here. If you were looking at the intake tube itself, you can see that has a small slot for that to fit into. Line it up, press it towards there as far as possible. Now, while I hold that towards the throttle body, I'm going to tighten my 7mm headed clamp. Let's attempt to pull that off of the throttle body. It should not slide out of place. So we will have to make our way over towards the air filter housing, but since we're over here, let's continue on with the lines leading along the back side of the intake. For each of these, just line them up with their corresponding ports. You can't mix them up. One has a larger diameter than the other. Press it straight in. Listen for a click. Make sure it does not slide out of position. Go ahead and repeat the process for the other. Just swing this over. We want to be careful not to break anything. Now you can pull on this locking tab if necessary, but typically you should be able to just press this on. There we go. That's secured as well. At this point, after checking these, we need to make our way over towards the air filter housing on the passenger side of the vehicle. Over at the air filter housing, we're taking that inlet tube. We're going to slide it all the way up against this flat flange. Just double check to make sure it's seated properly all the way around. Let's snug it up. Okay, friend, we finished our installation. The next thing you need to do is, if you had a check engine light, reset it. Start the vehicle, let it run. Make sure you have no misfire or running condition. After that, just go ahead and close the hood and take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.